Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die, where my goal is to give you evidence that although our bodies will disappear, we survive physical death. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Today on our show, we have a world-renowned psychic medium. She's a spiritual counselor and energy healer, and she's someone who's got a 2-year waiting list of people waiting to meet up with her. So I'm delighted that you and I get to listen to her words today. I'm super grateful. Her name is Karen Noe. Karen is the author of 3 very highly rated books. Her latest book is titled Your Life After Their Death, A Medium's Guide to Healing After a Loss. Karen is the host of the Angel Quest radio show and the founder of the Angel Quest Center in Ramsey, New Jersey, where she teaches classes, gives readings, and practices alternative healing. There's so much more to Karen, including hearing about her other books and what else she's up to, but I want you to hear her story. So Karen Noe, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And also for our listener, if you go to KarenNoe.com, you can see her beautiful face, which is KarenNoe.com. And then also she's on WeDon'tDieRadio.com where you can see her as well. So Karen, welcome first. And where do we get started? I'd like to hear a little bit about the backstory because I don't know if one grows up looking to be a medium or if it just kind of came to you. I mean, how did you first get into this world?
That's a good question. Well, people ask me that all the time. They ask if I've always been psychic, and the answer is yes, I've always been psychic, but no, I have not always been a medium. When I was younger, my father used to take me to the racetrack, and I picked the winning horses for him. He said I was lucky and things like that.
That's pretty cool.
Well, he used me.
Of course.
And my friends used to say that I used to freak them out because I would know things that would happen before they did happen. But about 20 years ago, I was going through a very rough time in my life. And I sat at the edge of my bed and I just yelled at God. And I asked him if I'd be okay. And as soon as I asked him, I saw a light that started to come to me from the other side of the room. And my first response was, if you're not of God, please leave. But the more I said that, the more it kept coming towards me, and it eventually enveloped me, and I felt an incredible peace that I have never since felt before that or since.
Wow.
And I heard an audible voice that said, Lucia Lucina, Bella Lucia Lucina. For those listeners who are Italian, it means light, little light, beautiful little light. And since that time, I started receiving messages from the angels and those who've passed, and they are different. People who've passed are different than the angels. And at that time, I wasn't sure what to do with this knowledge that I had. I didn't want people to think I was not in my right mind.
Yeah,
so
I think most of us have that feeling.
Yes. I've since learned that it was St. Francis who came to me on that day, and if anyone has read my books, I always incorporate that peace and love and the animals in it somehow. But I started doing this reluctantly in the back of a hair salon, and I just started doing healing on people, Reiki healing and energy healing. And as I was doing that, I started receiving messages from their loved ones, and without a doubt proof that it was from them, because I didn't want to do it. And some of the messages, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
One of the first messages I received, I will never forget. That's when I said, okay, I guess I'll do this. I was working on a woman. She wasn't feeling well. I was doing Reiki on her, and a gentleman came through, and he said his name. I can't remember. It's been so long. Robert. He said his name was Robert, and he said he died in a car accident. And then he showed me a kangaroo with boxing gloves on.
Okay.
And I said, no, she's going to think I'm crazy. And he just kept boxing the air, punching the air. And he said, just relay this message to her. Just tell her. And I'll tell you in a moment how I receive the messages. It's not as a voice, but we'll go through that in a minute. I saw the picture of the boxing kangaroo. So finally I gave in and I told the woman, there's a gentleman here named Robert, and he said he died in a car accident. And she's looking at me, and then I said, he showed me a kangaroo with boxing gloves. Well, the woman jumped up and she screamed, and she said, that's my best friend. He died in a car accident, and he boxed kangaroos in Australia.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's when I just started. Now all my messages are like that. But at that time, okay, there's no way. I never could have made that one up, and I couldn't have guessed it or anything like that. So, and that's what I tell people who come to see me, or if they ask me, how do they find a medium? I would say go upon the recommendation of someone who has been to them.
Right.
And you want messages that are very detailed, something that maybe only the two of you would know, maybe a nickname or something that you'll know it's them without a doubt.
Yeah, it's so hard because I've been to, when I started my exploration, I've been to some people that were so vague and gave me so many details that said, maybe after the reading, these will hit home. And then I've also been to some that have given me such specific things that like only my dad and I would know.
Right. That's what people should be looking for.
Yeah.
And, there are times when if you do go to a psychic medium, nobody comes through. That's okay, too. The person should be honest and say, I'm sorry, nobody's here today, because you can't make somebody come through. For the most part, they do come through. But once in a while that happens, and you want somebody who's completely honest.
Now, question for you. Is it the mediums, how do I say this? Can we do anything to have a better reading, or is it up to the medium to be great, or is it something to do with the energy coming through from the other side? What can we, what I'm asking?
It's all three. It's actually the person who comes to my office, it's myself, and it's also the loved one who's coming through.
Okay.
The best ones are the ones who are very loud and who were loud when they were here on Earth. Because what happens is we retain the same personality as we did when we were here on Earth. I tell people it's the energy. The energy of who we are doesn't end. It continues. It's very scientific, actually. Energy doesn't begin and it doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
So when the energy comes through, it should be the personality of the person when they were here on Earth.
I hear a phone buzzing in the background.
Yes, I know.
I don't know if it's your side.
It is. I turned it off, but it's still, I'm going to throw it on the other side of the room.
Oh, it's okay. One of the people that I interviewed, she had a big dog in the room, and the dog started to snore. So in the background of the whole interview was this snoring dog, and it, you know what? It just made it real. We all have cell phones. Some have dogs, but anyways, that's no problem at all. So back to our energy. It never dies. I really believe that completely.
It's true.
Totally.
And you could tell people who don't believe in life after death, you could say it's very scientific. Energy doesn't begin and it doesn't end. And then you could explain that. And then there are the people who have had near-death experiences, the ones who have actually clinically died and then came back to life. And they talk about what they saw. They saw their loved ones. They saw their pets. They went through a life review where they're able to see how they affected others when they were here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So there's proof of life after death.
There is. And you have to believe in, there are, I don't know, good, bad, and indifferent of all sorts. So, but you say we don't all need to go to a medium. Can we personally receive messages? I mean, I know in my heart the answer, but I want to hear it coming from you. We know they're still around.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I prefer that people do it themselves. And I think that's one of my main reasons for teaching this, is to teach people how to do it themselves. Okay. I love to give messages to people, of course. But what happens after that hour? What happens the rest of the year? What happens, the next year? Your loved ones are trying to talk to you all the time. They come to you as thoughts that pop in your head for no reason. Most people expect to hear a voice or to see an apparition of their loved one. And whereas that may happen, okay, that does happen. It's very rare, though. For the most part, your loved ones are energy. They don't have their physical body, so they're speaking to you telepathically. And most people don't realize that. So what you need to do is, you're probably thinking of your loved ones anyway. So how do you tell the difference between your thoughts and theirs?
Right.
Okay. So your thoughts would be very logical. You'd see something of your loved one, which would trigger a thought and which would trigger another thought. That's you. Mm-hmm. A message from your loved one would just pop in your head for no reason. Something your loved one would say or do would just pop in your head. For example, my mom would just say, "Hi, sweetheart," in the middle of my day. And I'll say, "Oh, Mom, hi, how are you? I love you." And that type of thing. And most people don't realize it. They think they're just thinking random thoughts, you know? And I would tell them to just pay attention to when they are thinking of their loved one, how the message, how the thought came into your consciousness.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Just I never got the answer about our energy in a reading, or even to get messages. Is there a way we can improve our energy to?
Yeah. So what I would do is when you go to a medium, I would first ask your loved one to please come through loud and clear, and to please be there. It's like making an appointment with your loved one to be there.
Okay.
Because they do things on the other side. They learn things, and it's just like when they were here on Earth. Not always could they be with us. So I would ask them to be with you. I would be in a good state of mind too, have good memories. If you want to bring something of your loved one, put it away. Don't keep it out so that the medium can see what it is. They need something. Well, then you could take something out, maybe whether it be a piece of jewelry or a picture, but usually the medium doesn't need that. It's good to to carry that around with you, though.
Yeah. What are these without a doubt signs that I saw you had written on your website?
Yes, my favorite. And this is when those who have come to see me say, well, I can't receive messages. I don't hear anything in my head. I don't see any apparitions.
Right.
I would say ask your loved one to give you a without a doubt sign, which means without a doubt that it is your loved one coming through. Let me give you some examples, and then I'll give you some stories that show, and I'm sure the listeners have many, many, many signs as well. Whenever I teach a class, almost the whole class, they raise their hand and they say they have, I ask how many people have received signs, and they almost all raise their hands. Mm-hmm. Well, number one, they place thoughts in our head, as I was just talking about. That's a sign. But they also love to come to us in dreams. Now, there's two types of dreams of our deceased loved ones, and that's very important to distinguish. One would be a true visitation, and another one would be your subconscious.
Okay.
You will know the difference. Your subconscious would be scary, how they died, frightening. You'll see them in a casket or something, unresolved issues. That would be you. So not to worry. That's not your loved one suffering. A true visitation in a dream, you will feel like you won the lottery. You dream of your loved one. Sometimes they don't speak. Sometimes they just look at you. They come often younger than what they were if they were older when they passed. Usually they like the age of 35. I don't know why, but that seems to be a common age that they come through.
Yeah, I think it's a good age for all of us, I think.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. My own mom, as I told you before, she comes to me as, many, many signs. But at one point, right after she passed, I said, Mom, I really need to hear from you one more time. I need to hear your voice. I need to hear from you. And that's what I would tell your listeners is to tell your loved ones, please come to me, in a sign. I need to hear your voice. I need to see you. So I did. I said this to my mom. I need to hear your voice one more time. What happened, I was at work and I wasn't feeling too well. So I went home and I took a nap.
Okay.
And I had a quote unquote dream, but it was not a dream. It was without a doubt my mom. And I'll tell you what happened in that dream. I dreamt I was in a crowded place, and over the loudspeaker, my mother's voice comes through and she says, I have an important announcement. I have an important announcement. I love you and I am okay. Aww. And I knew, oh my God, even in the dream, that it was truly my mom. And I said, Mom, I was crying even in the dream because it wasn't a dream. It was real. I said, this is so wonderful. Who are you with? And she answered me, and I didn't understand what she said. So I said, Mom, can you say that one more time? And then she said, Nanny, which is her mom. Mm. And so what happened was the phone rang and woke me up, and therefore I was able to remember the dream. So what happens is if you don't wake up after a dream, you won't remember it.
Right.
So I would tell our listeners to say, please come to me in a dream, but please wake me up after it so I remember it. And be patient. And the dream will come when you least expect it.
That's great.
Yes. Should I go through more signs? There's so many.
Yes. Okay. Why not? And you know what? It's interesting because even for me, I've been on this journey for a few years now. Just 2 years I've had my book and was on the journey before. But it's so easy to forget It's easy to forget that there's a bigger picture, and I'd want to hear your words on what you think life's about, why we're going through the good and the bad and indifferent. But to get these reminders that there is a bigger picture, and I think if you could share some more of these signs, just to let us know that we're not alone on this journey. It's so easy to feel alone, but that we're not, and that there is a purpose for this. So whatever you want to share.
Okay. So this is a big one. They love to come to us as an animal, a bird, a ladybug, a butterfly, a deer. It doesn't matter what the animal is. Now, our loved ones are not always an animal. So I just want to make that clear. But they're able to use their energy to come inside of an animal to let us know that they're with us. The animal will do something that it normally doesn't do, such as a butterfly will land on you, a bird will peck at your window, or something like that. A cat will come from outside and just start circling you, something like that. And I'll give you another example. I have many stories.
Okay. Stories are good. Stories are really good.
Yeah. So my friend Marion, let me start by saying that, as I said before, the personality of who we were continues after we pass. So then my friend Marion was very loud, and she, did practical jokes on everybody, and she was that type of person, and I loved her dearly, but she passed. And so I wrote Marion a letter, how much I loved her. And by the way, I recommend this to people, to write letters to their deceased loved ones and tell them how much they love them. And then at the end of the letter, say, please give me a sign to let me know that you know what I just said to you in this letter. And I did that with Marion. So I said, please, Marion, let me know without a doubt that you are aware that I love you so much, and I wrote you this letter, and I let it go. 2 days later, I was walking down the steps to my house to put letters in my mailbox. And as I'm walking down the steps, there's a bird in my driveway screaming at the top of its lungs, looking directly at me. And I'm like, and like screaming. If I could imitate it right now, it would be screaming. And I knew right away it was Marion. And I went up to the bird. The bird stayed there, continued to scream at me. And I said, oh my God, Marion, is that you? Is that you? The bird kept screaming at me. And as I'm saying this, I'm crying. My neighbor is looking at me like I've lost my mind.
Of course, you're nuts. Yep.
And the bird followed me to the mailbox and continued to scream at me. Now, birds don't normally do that. Birds are normally afraid of us. Right. So it followed me. And as I'm saying, oh my God, Marion, I love you so much. I love you. I had my cell phone in my pocket. And I called my son who was in the house, and I said, Tim, come outside. Marion's here. And he said, huh? I said, just come outside. And, he came outside and he witnessed the whole thing. 2 days later, a mutual friend of ours, of Marion and myself, called me, and she said, you're not going to believe what Marion did. And I said, oh, I sure will. What did she do to you? I'll tell you what she did to me. And she said, well, Karen, I just painted my kitchen. I opened the sliding glass door to my kitchen, and a bird flew in, pooped all over my walls, and then flew out.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny.
She said, Marion, thanks a lot. Couldn't you have done this in a different way? So what I'm saying to everyone is that the animal would do something that it normally doesn't do. And those who receive this type of message normally know that their loved one is with them. Have you ever received any type of sign like this?
Well, I have, but where my mind's going right now is the stories I've heard from some of the listeners about either butterflies coming in, or one lady actually had a hummingbird come into her garage, and she put her hand out and it landed on her hand.
Oh my God.
And when does that ever happen?
Absolutely. That's a without a doubt sign. And usually what I love about these types of signs, as the person knows it's a sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't normally happen.
Yeah,
right?
I like that. I really do. And to ask and to write a letter, and to ask and to have something, either whether it comes into your mind or it shows up through an animal or something that I love the expression, Karen, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
So you need to be specific. Yeah, because sometimes
just sure.
Yeah, lights going on or off, or there's who knows what could be happening, but there are times that it's like that's
even
you.
the lights going on.
Yeah, definitely. We've had some weird things. So we're going to get into deep question now, because I really want to ask you, Before I ask you what happens when we die,
Mhm.
it's before we die. It's the now time. It's those of us who have fears, those of us who have struggles. Certainly, there's some joy in life, but there's also some suffering. I mean, what are your thoughts, or what have you been told, or what do you know about like who we are and why we're here in this journey called life together?
We're all here to remember who we are, and we all have God within us. It's no one is special. We're all the same. We all have God within us. We have to remember that and the power that we have within us. We can literally change the world, but we have to reclaim that power. So
Wow.
all of us have different journeys. You know, some are musicians, some are artists, some are mediums, some are authors, you know, whatever they are. Some are nurses, you know, there's so many, and we all have a different journey. And we know before we come here what we're going to do in life. We choose our parents, we
Hmm.
choose our life. And people say, why would I, you know, if they had a hard life or hard, you know, difficult parents, they say, why did I choose that?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know when you do choose a difficult life, you learn more than if you had a wonderful life, you're all, you know, and it's so easy.
Oh, I mean, those are really important words, but it also makes me cringe. It's just like, oh, that makes so much sense, but it's so hard, or
Yes.
painful.
It's very painful. And then a lot of times it's easy to say, you know, most people say, why me? But then say, why not? And when you realize that it's almost, I call difficult lives, the hard lives, more like a graduate course than kindergarten. So you're here, you're learning these very difficult lessons. And if you could overcome these lessons, how wonderful is that? The end of your life, you will see how you overcame, you know, hatred and abandonment, whatever it was. And you were able to forgive. That's the most
Mm.
important thing in everything. I always say it's not the snake bite that kills us; it's the venom that's left behind.
Yes, exactly.
So if we're able to overcome that, not only will we be able to heal ourselves, but we could heal the relationship, and we could heal if we could see through each person's eyes. Let me go a step further from that, because after we pass, and I'm sure that was your next question, what happens then is we go through a life review
Okay.
where we're able to see how we affected people through their eyes. If we should have forgiven someone, if we should have asked forgiveness, if we should have told our loved ones how much we love them, but then it was too late. Why do we have to wait until we pass to go through this life review? Why can't we do that right now and see through each person's eyes on our journey
Right.
and try and forgive as our life, you know, each day goes by, and ask forgiveness. We're not perfect for sure. And tell our loved ones how much they mean to us, because we don't want to have any regrets later on that we didn't do it. You know
No.
how important that is? That's probably love is the most important thing on this journey here on earth. Love. And to remember who we are.
Wow. I love you say reclaim our power because
Yes.
I mean, it happens to me too because I'm human and none of us are perfect, but it's so easy to fall into the victim role of like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
I had a really great insight and it may be the truth, but I thought, if I could say this to myself when things go bad, like what if everything that's happening in this universe is all for my soul growth, like everything.
It
And
is.
so, yeah, I want to believe it is, but it's a great practice because when something goes wrong, it's so easy to be in that victim mode in like a second and just to maybe look at life and say, well, what have I learned from this or why did this show up in my life? And gosh, it really is very empowering and talk about reclaiming our powers to put it in that context of, wow, I just learned forgiveness, even self-forgiveness, or I just learned whatever. I had an opportunity last week. My mom, I was driving with her and we lost our headlights at night.
Oh boy.
Scary.
Oh boy.
I mean, scary. And we
Yeah.
were on the highway, and there weren't a lot of cars coming by, and we had to wait till a car came by to lead us kind of to the next exit. But Karen, it was scary.
Oh,
And so my wise self said, what if there's something to learn here? Now I'm petrified in the moment. Like, what the heck am I going to learn here? And
yeah.
I actually thought I can still remain really paying attention and really alert and still think, even though this severe fear is present. And I tell you, that's a pretty good life lesson because there's a lot of times that I'm afraid, and I'm usually concentrating on the fear. So it was,
Yes.
I think that's my example for.
It's very good. And I could actually see the symbolism of what happened. Even in the darkness, you were able to get to where you needed to go.
Yeah.
Because you remember the light.
Yeah.
See, that's what it feels like. And you were able to overcome, anything.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful.
But
yeah.
it was powerful. But, that's why I think talking to people like you and hearing your words are so important because, we want to hear things to let us know our loved ones are there or things to let us know that there's a bigger picture. However, but to empower us in our life right now with whatever we're going through, I mean, that's like a very huge gift. Very huge.
Really is.
So a little bit more about after the life review.
Okay.
Do you know anything like what heaven's like? I like the word heaven, but
well, for the most part, what everything I've learned is from readings, and I've been doing it for many years. Mm-hmm. So what they always talk about the life review, I should have told you this, I shouldn't have hit you, but once we get past that, they say who they're with. They're with their loved ones who also passed. They're with pets as well.
Love that.
Yes. And complete bliss. There's no they don't even know what suffering is. So when they bring up the suffering, the living loved one, they have no concept because they don't even remember that. It's just those who have passed and those who have had near-death experience. How do I explain this? Because everybody's going to want to die then. But I mean, there's nothing to fear. It's a wonderful place with your loved ones, total peace, total love. With a thought, you can be wherever you want to be. You could be with your loved ones. You could go to a different planet. With a thought, you're there. And oftentimes the living loved one says to me, "But am I bothering them to ask them to come to me?" And I always say, if it was reversed and you were on the other side and they were here, would you tell them, would it be a pain in the neck to let them know that you're okay? And the answer is no. They'd love to tell their loved ones that they were okay. And then they understand.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Do you believe that we come back?
We choose whether or not to come back. It's not that we're forced to. We choose if we need to learn compassion, say, from our previous life. We're not compassionate. You go through that life review. You'll say, well, I really need to learn compassion. And what better way than to come back to a very difficult life where you need to learn compassion quickly. Mm. So on that point, when you're on the other side, you're able to see it in a bigger way, in a bigger perspective. And some people decide to come back and do that. And they forget when they come here what they signed up for. But,
yes. That's it's just the voice of recognition. Yeah, I think we've all dealt with some really tough things. Or might be going through something right now, and it's just so hard to believe that there's a bigger picture. But I tell you, and I think everyone listening here would agree, if you look back on some of the hardest times you've ever had in your life, think about the growth that you've got out of it, or what things led to, and people that you've met, and sometimes it takes being years down the road to look back to figure it all out and how it all worked itself out. But I want to get into something now because my mind is telling me so. Okay. Is grief, because I know, like I just made that statement that we can look back and see how we've grown and things. There's a lot of people that haven't been able to, because you can be stuck in grief. You lose a loved one, and it's like you die on the inside as well.
Yes.
So if you could share, because I know you're passionate about helping people moving forward after a loved one's death, but your own expertise better than I, so I'm not really sure what to ask. But what do you want to share in the world of
There's so much that I'd like to share. Number one, there's many healing techniques that would work for someone to heal more quickly. Something's called tapping. It's not tap dancing, but it's moving energy. And when I learned about it, I thought it was not, many years ago, I didn't even understand it. But now I see the impact on how much it helps people. I was at an event. I was doing an event for Hay House in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And we were doing tapping with the whole auditorium. And all of a sudden I hear this woman just sobbing and crying, almost, she almost threw up. So I jumped off the stage and I just started doing the tapping with her. And some of the techniques that I talk about, it's difficult to explain all of them in a short hour. But within 3 minutes, she was okay. So I would definitely tell people to learn to see if they could find somebody that it's called the emotional freedom technique or tapping.
Okay.
Or to do different techniques. But for the most part, if you don't want to do the techniques, I would say give yourself the time that you need to grieve. There's no time, period. It's not a week, a month, a year, 10 years. It's not. Whatever you need, you let yourself grieve. You let yourself feel. It's important to stay busy if you can, after you get over that initial shock. So, you want to, maybe set goals, maybe if you want to go on vacation, things like that. Some people don't. Some people like to get away. It all depends. The most important thing is to banish guilt. So there's nothing you could have done that would have prevented your loved one from passing. Most people think that, they could have done something differently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we stew upon that thought over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And I'll assure you that our loved ones, they pass when it's their time.
Okay.
And most people would say, and you're telling me with murders and all these different horrible deaths? And I could tell you when they come through, they say, yes, I certainly don't understand it myself. How does a child die? How does this type of, I don't understand it. I wish I did. But when you see the bigger perspective and you understand this time on earth is just a short period of time, whereas after you pass, it's for eternity, or you decide to come back, it's forever. So this time on earth is so, when you're there, insignificant. But when we're here, it's not. If you can understand, you know what I mean.
Oh, I do. And it is easy to have the guilt. And it's also not like I should have done something differently, but sometimes it's like I should have said this or I shouldn't have said this. And so that guilt takes us over too.
And if that happens, I would say talk to your loved one. They could hear you. And if there's something you should have said to them, you could talk to them, write them a letter, say, I really love you, especially you did this, these are your best, I remember when, remember some events that happened. And then make sure to say, give me a without a doubt. Yes. But the most important thing to remember that it is okay to feel happy again. Some people feel guilty if they're happy again after a loved one's, has passed, because that they feel, they're forgetting their loved one, but they're not. Their loved one's always with them. The memory, they're wonderful memories, and they could be with them with a thought, but their loved one wants them to be happy and to move on.
And to live life. I mean, it's, to imagine, I was at a funeral once and the priest described someone dying as like that person just got on a cruise ship, like a all-inclusive, fabulous cruise ship, and was going to this most beautiful island, and like they're doing great, and so it's us that's not, and just to realize that they're not suffering, they're doing fantastic, and grief does take time. It really does. It's definitely a physical process, and we humans are made up of so many chemicals and whatnot, all the neurotransmitters and everything, that it takes time. There's no one way to do it.
Yes. And then on the other hand, say you do move on quickly after someone passes. I have that when people come to see me and they meet someone after their spouse dies, maybe a year later, and their children are upset because they're doing so. Whatever is right for you, it's okay. Their loved one is not judging you. They want you to be happy. They want you to, and as we said before, they truly are okay. They just want us to be okay too. Mm-hmm. They don't want us to be alone and unhappy. They don't.
Of course not. I mean, there's so much joy in life to experience. And if we really do embrace that we're going to see them again,
yes.
That it's all okay, and we can talk about anything, and they're still around. And I love how you say write a letter.
Yes.
Because, it sounds well and good to just think a thought or just talk to somebody like they're there. But, our minds take over and we'll start thinking about the grocery list or whatever. But to really take the time to write the letter and to ask for without a doubt sign, that's very powerful, Karen.
It is. And there are different types of letters. I tell my clients to write a letter. Not everyone would write the same type. Of course, there are letters of love and appreciation to tell them how much you love them. But there's some people who need to forgive. When you need to forgive your loved one. So what you do in that type of letter, you try to see through your loved one's eyes why they did what they did, if that makes sense. Like, in other words, we were so wrapped up if they did something to us and then they pass months and we never, figured it out. We never resolved the issues. Try to see through their eyes in the letter. Say, I understand now. I could see why you did this. For example, one of my clients, she never could resolve issues. Her mom passed. Her mom used to abuse her and broke her nose, did horrible things. Oh. Yeah. And she said, how could I forgive her? I said, well, I as I said before, you want to forgive her for you, because you don't want to hold on to this the rest of your life. But let's try to see through your mom's eyes. And so she wrote a letter to her mom, and she saw through her mother's eyes. Her mother was, I think, the oldest of 8 or 9 children, and she was never shown the love, and she was also physically abused as well. Now, does this make it right? Absolutely not. However, my client was able to see that her mother just did what what she knew best, and she just lived it. Of course it was wrong, but what happened was she was healed and she wasn't holding on to these terrible, feelings about her mom anymore. So that was truly helpful. Also, there's a letter of forgiveness when you want them to forgive you. That happens too. Like if they left and you, oh my God, I should have spent more time with them, or I should have told them how much I love them, or I yelled at them, whatever it is, write a letter. And the reason why I say write a letter is because it takes a little bit more time to write the letter. And you can think, how you want to say it and think about it in a different way. I talk more about this in my second book, Through the Eyes of Another, how to write these different types of letters. So if you need a guideline, it's all in there. And finally, the last letter is just to maintain your connection with them. You could just write a letter and say, hey, Mom, or hi, Grandma, Jessica's graduating, or whatever's going on. And I'm sure they know anyway. But it's just to keep your connection with them. It really does work, and it helps. It's a therapy for the living loved one as well.
Yeah, and can you also keep writing, like if you think they're answering you?
Yes, absolutely. You keep it, keep it going.
Yeah, and this probably goes right back to what you said about dreams, but if all of a sudden negative stuff kicks in, that's probably our own mind.
Absolutely. It would be your subconscious trying to resolve issues every single time, 100% of the time. When your loved one comes through as a real visitation, it feels wonderful because they are in a place of total bliss. Most people say to me, but are you telling me even the bad people, they're there in bliss? What I tell them is that what happens is we do go through that life review. Don't forget that. And we're able to see and feel how we affected each person. But that's just a bigger knowingness on how we affected people. It's not that throughout eternity we're going to be in a bad place. Because after we pass, we're one with God, one with our loved ones, one with the whole universe. It's a wonderful place.
I have a question that just came up in our mind. There's a lot of times, myself included, some unresolved things with people here on Earth.
Yes.
And it may not be easy to just pick up the phone and talk. If we do have God within us,
yes,
and we are reclaiming our power, if we wrote a letter, say, to someone alive that we haven't spoken to in years, and not saying you can't mail it, but is there something that we are connected in somewhere, some shape, or they're getting the message, and that we can maybe start this dialogue until we have the power to actually pick up the phone? Does that make sense? Is that a crazy thought?
It does make sense, and it's a very good idea to do. I would even say ask your loved one, the living loved one who you didn't talk to, ask their angel to intervene. And, you could write that letter. You don't have to mail it, and say, I'm sorry this happened, and always try to see through the other person's eyes, even in those types of letters. Even if it was a horrendous thing that they did, try to see why.
Yeah.
Because somehow how did we affect it? In what way did we, sometimes we didn't. Like my client, she was a child and she was beaten. But try to see. Most times we have a part in it.
Definitely.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Yep. I know a lot of things happened around the death of my own dad with my siblings, and so I ask questions, not just for the listener, but for myself as well. But so often when I share my story, gosh, I can't even tell you how many people haven't spoken to a relative in forever. Really long time. And I just think this would be a great tool to do, even if someone is not deceased and is still alive,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't have any regrets at the end of your life to say I should have.
You mentioned the angels. Yeah, Karen. What part are they playing in all this? It's nice to believe My dad, my grandmother is still around me and things, but who are these angels? You know?
Okay. Yes, angels are different than those who've passed. We all have guardian angels. It doesn't matter what religion, or even if you don't have a religion, it does not matter. We have angels with us that guide us with those are the gut feelings that we have. You could call it your higher self, whatever you want to call it. Throughout our life, there are also archangels who have a bigger purpose, and they can be with more than one person at one time, whereas our guardian angels can only be with us. So if you call upon the archangels, yeah, like the archangels is Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, they all have a purpose. There's more than that. But say you want to call upon Archangel Michael. Now, he takes away negativity. If you're having problems with your family or friends or work or something going on, I would ask Archangel Michael to please intervene and take away all negativity in that situation. You will be so surprised and so happy when you see what happens. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose to try this. It really does work. And these angels, the archangels, can be with more than one person at one time. So you're not taking them away from somebody else.
And how many guardian angels do we have? Do we each have one on the left, one on the right? I know that sounds silly, but it's very empowering to believe and know that there's somebody with me.
Absolutely.
Because I feel alone a lot.
You're
And I'm
not
sure
alone.
we all do.
You know what you need to do is ask your angels to give you signs to let you know they're around.
Oh.
No? And everyone has at least one, but depending on somebody's mission or, what they're doing in life, their angels could keep multiplying. It depends. And this is the best part. If you feel alone, ask the angels to come and give you, to be with you. I call upon the angels. I call them my four buddies, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. Yeah. And I say, please be with me today, and you will feel as each of them enter the room, how you feel differently. They all have a different essence about them. Whereas Archangel Michael feels very strong. He's as I said, he takes away the negativity. He's the bouncer of the angels, so he's really strong energy. And then we have Archangel Uriel, who's very peaceful and tries to keep peace in our lives. Raphael is the healing angel. If you need to heal, mind, body, spirit. Then there's Gabriel, a communication angel. If you're a speaker or if you're a writer or if you just need to speak your piece, ask Archangel Gabriel to help you and they will be there for you, which is amazing. It doesn't matter. Everyone is worthy. People say I'm not worthy. Everyone is worthy. That's their purpose. They want to help us. They're our messengers. They're God's messengers trying to help us.
I love that we're all worthy because if we weren't, we wouldn't have been created.
Exactly.
So as dismal as your life might feel, there's a purpose, and I tell you, some of the people that have had the hardest times have been the biggest gifts to other people.
You bet, because they know how to overcome.
Biggest inspirations, absolutely. Yes. Hey, Karen, I was floating around on your website, KarenNoe.com, another plug for that. And, yeah, there's lots of good things. I mean, you have your own radio show, right? That's on every week. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's actually just the first Saturday of every month.
Oh, okay.
And it's a local station here, but everyone can tune in. Actually, they do. It's WRCR.com. And it's at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time on the first Saturday of the month. And we talk about many of the concepts we're talking about today, and I have guests on that share the same views. We talk about life after death. We talk about manifesting, and how your thoughts create your reality, and reincarnation, and signs from deceased loved ones. So if you're interested in that, I would tell the listeners to go to my website, KarenNoe.com, and then click on Angel Quest radio shows, and there's all the archives of all my past radio shows.
Yeah, that's great. I find, it might not be easy for me to tune in on a certain day of the month, but if I can go in the wee hours and just listen to your voice and get some inspiration, I'll do that. Now, you've also got a link that you've got some CDs, and I didn't see any explanation, but for our listener, she's got chakra clearing, past life regression, connecting with angels and deceased loved ones, and affirmations. So I would just want to know, because I know there's a big, long waiting list of people to get to you, which it's easy to understand because you're really likable and all that. But it's like sometimes I feel like I still want to take a piece with you of you with me. And they're, I don't know, $12 or $11 or something. But what do you offer on these CDs? Because I like the sounds of past life regression and chakra clearing and all that. What are the,
Okay.
and why did you create those?
So I created these because I do teach classes at my center and I see what people want and need. The first one is how to connect with angels and deceased loved ones. And it's actually a meditation.
Okay.
And we connect with first, as we were talking about the angels before, we connect with our guardian angel and the archangels one by one. And then we connect with our deceased loved ones. And I take you through that in a meditation.
That's nice.
And yes. Then the chakra clearing, what that is, we have energy, for those listeners who don't know what a chakra is, we have chakras within our body that correspond to whatever's going on in our life. There's 7 major chakras, but the 8th one, I'll explain what a chakra is first, is energy. Mm-hmm. Spinning energy wheels. And if something is going on in your life that is actually blocking that chakra, that will inhibit your ability to connect with your loved ones. So say, for example, someone is going through bankruptcy. Their root chakra, the lower chakra, would be blocked. And that would inhibit your ability to connect with the angels and deceased loved ones. In order to connect with them, in order to connect with the celestial realm, in order to have higher intuition, you need to clear this energy. And then you'll be more open to receiving messages. So that's what the chakra clearing is. It actually helps to clear out the chakras that are blocked. And so that's that one. And then the past life regression one, we all have been here before. Mm-hmm. And if you're curious about that, it's a meditation that you really need to do all by yourself. Right. You have to turn off the phone and close, don't pay attention to anybody if somebody comes to the door, and just I guide you through it. We go back in time and you will feel, you will not be there. People say, how come I'm not there? Because you can't. You're physically here, right. But you feel the feelings of being where you were. You'll get thoughts that will come into your consciousness and things like that. So that's the past life regression. And finally, my affirmation CD is, it's very important to state positive statements, because what we say actually creates our reality, believe it or not. So if we're always saying, oh, I never get, I've heard people say, I never win. Whenever I go to my children when they were younger, for example, mm-hmm. There were fashion shows and I always won. I always did. I don't know. I felt guilty, but I used to say I always win, and I always did. What you're saying, your words actually affect your life. So it's important to say, positive affirmations over and over again. And you will create positive things in your life by just doing that. And that's what the affirmation CD is all about. It's positive affirmations.
Oh, I could talk to you for hours. This is awesome. Well, I'm also thinking, you said earlier, God within us and reclaim our power, mm-hmm. that we're still the same souls, even when we die or pass away, whatever you want to call it, transition, but we still have that within us right now. So reclaiming our power and using our words to speak our power. And, sometimes we don't believe it when we're saying it, but boy, I always win. I like that. And I always do. Yeah. And it can be fun. And, we've heard the expression act as if, put a smile on your face for 30 seconds and you'll feel happy. Same kind of thing going on.
I know it's not always easy, though.
No.
But really, it's worth it. And I have some of my favorites is everything I need to know is revealed to me. Everything I need comes to me. All is well in my world. So if you say those 3 things, you'll never be surprised if something's coming at you. Everything I need to know is revealed to me. Everything I need comes to me. Say you're not well. Everything you need to know is revealed to you. What you're supposed to be doing. And you say that, it really does happen. And if you say all is well in my world, and if at first you don't believe it, try saying it every single day. You will see that your life will change.
So
all will be well. In
everything I need is revealed to me.
Yes.
Everything I need comes to me. All is well in my world. Is there something I missed in that?
Okay. Everything I need to know is revealed to me.
Okay.
Everything I need comes to me. And then all is well in my world. There's so many other affirmations that are, really important, but they're all, make sure it's all present tense. It's always saying it as if it's happening now. In other words, don't say, I want this or I will be happy. Say, I am happy. Even though you're not, if you continue to say it, you will change your feeling. And then people will come to you. You will see. People will react to you differently. It's life changing. Yeah.
I love it. And we all have the negative kind of inner critic that's constantly saying, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. And that's just part of being human.
But try it. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. It's positive. And I have positive affirmations all over my office, in my home, like little statements, all over.
Oh, this is so much fun. Is there anything I haven't asked you? Oh, you have your center in New Jersey that you teach classes. Can you touch upon that? Because I might want to take a trip.
Yes. Well, I teach classes on how to connect with angels and deceased loved ones, how to meditate. Let me just grab my class schedules right behind me. Here it is. Reiki. I teach how to do Reiki, peace meditation, animal communication, all different things. And that's all on my website as well.
Okay.
You could just go to KarenNoe.com. But I also do travel and teach. I'm going to be in Virginia Beach in November 6th, teaching about life after death, the ARE, the Association of Research and Enlightenment, the Edgar Cayce Center. And Lisa Williams is going to be there as well, and Robert Brown. That's going to be a wonderful, I'm teaching people how to heal after their loved ones pass. Because as we stated before, your loved ones are okay. It's the person who's living who's not okay. Right. So, I teach them about that.
Have I forgotten to ask you anything, or is there any things you want to share?
There's a couple of things I'd love to share. We are all able to do what I do, and that's very important. It's not just Karen Noe can give messages and nobody can. The most important thing to know, is to realize that you can do it too. It's important to raise your vibration. The reason being is that the angel's vibration is very high, and so is your loved one who has passed. It's higher. They're not connected to the body anymore. So in order to feel them and to be more on par with their vibration, you want to do the things to raise your vibration, such as practice forgiveness, be more compassionate, maybe pray and meditate daily, set the intention that you want to raise your vibration, be grateful, and things like that. All things to raise your vibration so that you're more on par with their energy, because they are there and they're probably saying, oh, I'm trying to let you know I'm here, but you're just not hearing them. And it's not because they're not around. It's just because we're in a funk. And I have to state something else. This is really important. And I hear this time and time again. Those who are closest to the person who passed are the ones who are not receiving the messages. And that's, of course, rightfully so, because when you're grieving, your energy is very low. Okay? So if that gives you the incentive to just, go for a walk or do something to try to get out of the funk, force yourself, because then you'll be able to feel your deceased loved ones better. It's often a friend of a friend of a friend who's heard from their, the loved one, who's dreamt of the loved one, and the one closest has not. And that's the reason.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
I had a man not too long ago just devastated. And he says, I was the closest one to my dad, and, I'm not getting any signs. And that makes perfect sense.
That's why. So I would say is, to try, force yourself. It's difficult. I know that. But, go for a walk in nature or do something. Sing what a beautiful morning. I don't sing well, so I won't sing it. But something, even though you don't believe it, that will raise your vibration.
How about things like eating healthy and exercising, absolutely. All that stuff we know we should do?
You bet.
Makes a difference.
And there's something that I always touch upon, but some people are not open to it. And I always say, whatever resonates with you, accept. Whatever does not, then don't accept it. Because remember, the God is within you. And you have to remember whatever feels right to accept. But I am a vegan. I don't eat meat. The reason being is when I started all of this and I received the messages, I felt the pain of the animals. Now, what happens is when we eat that, we receive that in our vibration. What I would tell listeners, I wouldn't say that you have to be a vegan or vegetarian, but I would say to try. How about for a day? Just eat a primarily plant-based diet, healthy diet, and see if you feel better. And if you don't, that's okay too. But yes, diet certainly does affect us. Eating too much sugar, for example, is not good for us. Although it's wonderful, it tastes great, and it's very addictive, sugar. But, all of that. absolutely raises our vibration.
Very good. Did we touch on your closing words, or do you have some closing words for us?
I do.
I'm looking at the time like, how did it go by so fast?
Let me see. Let me grab something behind me. I'm glad I'm at the center. Hold on. I'd love to read something. When I first started doing my classes, I was very shy. I didn't know how to end the class. And I asked the angels, how should I end the class? And they said to me, go get your email. And I said, doesn't make sense. But I learned that I have to listen. I opened my email, and it was an email from my friend Faith. And it was one of those pass-along emails. And it was just perfect to end the class. And I think it's perfect to end, if I may share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's called The Man Whispered. And it says, the man whispered, God speak to me. And a meadowlark sang, but the man did not hear. So the man yelled, God speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the man did not notice. And the man shouted, God, show me a miracle. And a life was born. But the man did not know. So the man cried out in despair, touch me, God, and let me know that you're here. Whereupon God reached down and touched the man. But the man brushed the butterfly away and walked on. Don't miss out on a blessing because it isn't packaged the way you expect. Be open to receive, and you will. Angel blessings to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. That was a perfect thing to close our show with. I appreciate it big time, and we'll definitely stay connected.
Absolutely.
And a reminder to our listener, you can see Karen's beautiful face. A connection to her website and her social media page and everything is on my website, or our website, WeDon'tDieRadio.com. As always, you can visit KarenNoe.com and check out her books, her radio show, her products, everything. And just in closing, this is Sandra Champlain. I've been your host on We Don't Die Radio. I do believe that life is an education for our soul, and that your life, every one of our lives here on earth, is important. So again, I really want to thank you for taking the time to listen today, and know that your life really is important. It's all is well in your world, in my world. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.